On the 22nd of July 2011, Oslo was struck by a very powerful car bomb that went next just to the Prime Minister's office. 8 people were killed immediately and hundreds were injured. Panic struck Norwegians trying to figure out why they have been attacked, why they have been added to the long list of cities that have been attacked by Islamic jihadists. They searched and they found many reasons, and they found Norway has been contributed to troops to the NATO war effect. They found that the Muslim community of Norway had been properly integrated to the society. Just a week before, a Muslim preacher had been indicted for this incitement, and while the country was still trying to make this scenes of fog of war, there was another attack, a simultaneous attack that happened couples hours later in a school summer camp, where more than 69 people were shot, killed, shot dead, including personal friends of the prime minister and some members of the royal family. And of course, names starting popping up. This was had to be a jihadist attack. Responsibilities, some Al Qaeda. The name starting popping up. But ironically, it was none of that. This entire terror attack was the handiwork of one man, whose name was Anders Burby, and he was a Norwegian, and he hated Muslims, and he was actually protesting against the multiculturalist policies of the Norwegian government. My second story is about this man. He goes by the name of Salim Durrani. He has many names. He operated in the valley for about 10 years. He used to move in and out. The fences were never and boundaries were never a problem for him. He has a prize on his head when he operated in the valley, and he's been known to be personally responsible for the deaths of 2 to 3, 4 dozen young men. He is also a devout Muslim, prays 5 times a day. He has his AK-47 next to him like a true warrior. Each time he prays, wherever he sleeps, never sleeps in the same place twice, not for 2 nights in a row. Salim Durrani is Michael Smith from the Indian Army. This is a picture of him when he was major serving in the valley. Between his father and his grandfather, 3 generations, they have contributed 8 uniformed services officers into the Indian Armed Forces, and between them, they hold 6 gallantry awards and 2 commendation cards. The young lad that you see sitting on the left is Salim's son, who is now planning to join the Indian Military Academy and continue the family tradition for the 4th generation to serve this country. Now, when I told you these two stories, your mind instantly left to a conclusion that was wrong. You thought of Salim Durrani when I began as a terrorist, AK-47 Valley, and your mind jumps to a conclusion which was wrong. We do that very often. We take information which is coming to our brain and we stereotype it. And why do we do that? And why do we do that? Because we are bad people? Turns out because we are people. Or our brain is still evolving over a millions of years of evolution. And it's incapable of dealing with all these inputs that come to our brain in every second. So our mind filters them out in some sort of patterns and absorbs those patterns and jumps to a conclusive judgment. Let me give that you a few examples. For instance, until I say these sentences to you, you are unaware of the feeling of your touch of your thighs on your seat, or the touch of your arm on your armrest, or the faint hum of the air conditioner in this auditorium. But the moment I said the sentences, those pieces of information were out there and in your brain, and your mind jumps to a conclusion. But until then, those information were coming to your brain and were being filtered out. And that's the way our mind works at a time. It takes just 2 to 3 pieces of data and quickly jumps to a conclusion. Let's solve that with another simple example. Now let's solve this math puzzle. Suppose there is a racket and a ball which together cost 110 rupees. Racket and ball cost The racket cost 100 rupees more than the ball. What is the price of the ball? Now all of us who got it as 10 just witnessed a way in which our brain takes information and jumps to the wrong conclusion. The answer is 5. The price of the ball is 5. The price of the racket is 105. That is why the racket is 100 rupees more than the ball. But you had 100 and 110 and you jump to the price of the ball was probably 10. Now the second feature of our stereotypical thinking, we will usually think of the worst case scenarios. That is why Salim Durrani is a terrorist and not among the thousands of Muslims, officers and soldiers who serve in the Indian Armed Forces. And why do we do that? Why do we always gravitate toward the worst case scenarios? Now the answer for that is also a human evolution of brain. Now suppose we went back to history as we are evolving and there were these two tribes, tribe 1 and tribe 2. Tribe 1 consisted of a brave, fearless warriors. They would see a mammoth and they say, I would take on this mammoth by myself. They come to a chasm, they say, I would run and jump across the chasm and flap my wings. They would see a bright fruit and they say, you know what, forget about the consequences and bite it. And tribe 2 said, when they say, oh mammoth, I can't take on this mammoth by myself, my son need to go and get some more people. And they come to a chasm, they decided to walk all the way down to the other way. Or when they see this bright fruit, this but say, you know what, I will stick to my boring banana. Whose descendant do you think we are? Tribe 1 or tribe 2? Of course, tribe 2. Tribe 1 didn't have descendant. They died. So two elements. We jump to judgment, though judgments are usually worst case scenarios. And the third problem with this wrong judgment, worst case scenarios, we also change physiologically. Our mind changes, the way we behave biologically changes. Let me show that with another example. How many of you seen the movie Black? It was a sad movie. How many of you cried during the movie? Why did you cry? Amitabh Bachchan is making tons of money. Rani Mukherjee is not blind. This is all happening in a screen. None of it is true. But we still crying because our reptilian brain didn't realize the difference between the fact and fiction and started physiologically feeling sad and physiologically taking decisions in the emotional state of mind. Now, for those of you who didn't see the movie Black or were too much not to cry during the movie, I want you to visualize one more example. I want you to visualize that I am asking you to open your mouth. Don't open your mouth, just visualize. That I am asking you to open your mouth and stick out your tongue. Now your tongue is stuck out, your mouth is open. I have got a lemon in my hand and I am squeezing it, that lemon on the tip of your tongue. And that juice is going down. Why are you salivating? There is no lemon in my hand. There is nothing in my hand. But again, your reptilian mind didn't know that when you hear these words, lemon, lime, going, you can't stop salivating. Because physiologically, our body changes the way we perform, we behave, we take decisions based on wrong information. Now, salivating on the imaginary lemon may be harmless, but stereotypes can be very, very dangerous. People got lynched by mobs because they believe that they have eaten the wrong type of meat. Communal riots break out based on false WhatsApp messages and photoshopped images. Countries go to war because they believe that another country has got weapons of mass destruction. Countries leave alliances that they have been part of for decades because they believe that immigrants are coming and stealing their jobs, which is incorrect information. We start looking at every stranger with suspicion and we think that anything that is different from us has to be dangerous. We start believing that anyone who is not with us is by definition against us. One another founding principle of our country is the core value of tolerance. And tolerance, like wisdom, is the ability to hold the contrarian idea within the same mind and evaluate each one of them in merit before coming to a conclusive judgment. Before this talk, I was researching on the way working of the brain, on stereotyping, and have found many books. And matter of fact, some of these lines I have told you from these books. But I was hard pressed to find a book that would tell me how do we deal with this problem. What is the framework that will help us recognize this threat of parochialism or divisiveness? Because if we start believing that anyone who is not with us is against us, then we start creating a society in a world where everything is connected to each other, which is extremely divisive. And finally, I found a book from which I want to read out a passage for you. The Fundamentals Duties of the Citizens of India, Article 51A. It shall be the duty of every citizen to promote harmony and spirit of brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religion, linguistic, regional, and sectional diversity. Now, this book, as many of you have guessed, is the Constitution of India. Is that book which is holier than every holy book? Is that book which is on which every soldier, every politician, every bureaucrat swears and every citizen of India swears his allegiance. We have been taught to stand up whenever in attention, whenever the national anthem is played or national flag is unfurled. We have been taught and paying attention whenever the national anthem is played, and we teach that to our kids. I think also it's also time for us to sit down and start studying the fundamentals which are being represented by that flag and by national anthem. Because as the saying goes, whenever you are struggling to look for a new idea, sometimes it's a good idea to read an old book.